good evening or good afternoon from Phoenix, Arizona. I don't know if you can see the beautiful landscape behind me, but I'm still here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about balancing macros while traveling. Macros are basically protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And I'm not a nutritionist, but I do have a degree in integrative nutrition, and I read a lot about macros, I read a lot about nutrition, I read a lot about different alternative diets. I've had to do a lot of that because I've suffered from a ton of digestive issues over the years. I have had digestive issues basically since I can remember, and so I've had to do a lot of research to try to figure out how to make sure that I am digestively okay. And that on top of celiac disease has really been one of these things that has driven my interest in nutrition. And when it comes to traveling, it's really, really, really difficult to try to figure out how do you balance your macros. And for every individual, it's a little bit different. So some people are really good with very little carbohydrates. Some people are really good with a ton of fat and tiny bit of carbohydrates. Some people have an individualized way of, they like a lot of carbohydrates because they can process them really well, and they don't like a lot of fat and protein. So I think at the end of the day, it's really important to know what is really good for you and what you respond well to. But when I'm traveling, I try really hard to try to figure out what does it feel best for me to eat. And what I recognize is that I do best when I have good protein, a high fat diet. So I actually load up my diet with a ton of fat, a ton of avocado, a ton of oil, a ton of coconut oil, but I also do really well with carbohydrates as well. So you really have to know how to balance that. And I basically think about your plate, especially when you're traveling, your plate should be very colorful with plants and eating the rainbow, but ensuring that when you have the rainbow, you have a little bit of the carbohydrates, the healthy carbohydrates like sweet potato, oats, rice, like brown rice or white rice. But then on top of that, for me, I do really great with the fats too. And it's harder to get the fats. It's harder to get, when I'm traveling, it's hard to get a really good avocado or a really good olive oil. So I have to rely on whatever it is that I can either pack, or I can go to Whole Foods. And fortunately, Whole Foods is in so many different places now in the United States, so it's really easy to get what it is that you need. But when you're trying to balance your plate, it's really important to put as many plants on the plate as possible, followed by a little bit of protein and a good amount of fat. And I think the best way to figure out how that works is to test it out for yourself. Figure out, how do you feel when you eat different variations of those 3 macronutrients? So test it out for a week. See what it feels like to eat a really heavy fat diet and a little bit of carbohydrate and a little bit of protein. Then the next week, see what it feels like to eat more protein, less fat, less carbohydrate. And then see the following week, what does it look like to eat a lot of carbohydrate, a little bit of fat, and a little bit of protein. Just depends. Your body, you are very individual. Your body might respond differently than my body. But at the end of the day, it's really important to have a balance of those macros to then figure out what does it look like when you are traveling, especially, how can you make sure that your plates in every meal, and when you're conscious of every meal, is as balanced as your body can handle. So let me know what you think about that and whether that resonates with you. And I would love to know, how do you balance your macros, and are there any other tips and tricks that I can take on to see if I can try it while I'm traveling? See you later.